House Republicans are moving forward with their impeachment inquiry against President Biden. The first hearing happening next week. The House Oversight Committee likely to subpoena bank records of Hunter Biden and James Biden, Joe's brother. That's happening this week, we believe. Joining me right now is former acting U.S. Attorney General Matt Whitaker. Matt, good to see you. Thanks very much. The DOJ has been stonewalling this investigation. Do you think they'll actually be able to get their hands on Biden family bank records?
Well, it's going to be interesting because this impeachment inquiry phase should give them more power behind their subpoenas, and it should encourage courts especially to enforce those subpoenas. I would expect that if the banks that receive these subpoenas resist, or if, somehow the Biden team go into court to try to squash these subpoenas, I think that's where the real fight is. But, based on the announcement of an impeachment inquiry, that should give more teeth and more power behind these subpoenas from the House.
Yeah, I mean, Attorney General Merrick Garland will testify before the House Judiciary Committee today, and we've got an excerpt from Garland's testimony. He's expected to say, quote, "I am not the president's lawyer. I will also add that I am not Congress's prosecutor. The Justice Department works for the American people." This is the Wall Street Journal reports that the relationship between Biden and AG Garland has gone from distant to frigid. Not sure I believe that, Matt, but what's your take on what we're going to hear from Merrick Garland and what questions will be asked?
Well, it's nice to see after reading that Wall Street Journal article that Joe Biden has joined the rest of America in being dismayed with the Attorney General. But, I think we're going to see out of his testimony really a lot of obfuscation, a lot of, sort of not accepting responsibility, and ultimately not acknowledging a two-tier system of justice that we have talked about many times. And so I don't think we're going to get much from Merrick Garland, but at the same time, the questions are going to be the most important thing because, he needs to answer, the special counsel investigations. He's got to address those. He's got to address why, in the case of Donald Trump, they're throwing the full force of the law, but in the case of Hunter Biden, they're trying to find the most minimal possible way to get rid of that case. And so, that is the example that I think Congress should pound Merrick Garland with, that he is running an organization that goes after Republicans but doesn't go after Democrats as hard.
Yeah, and the New York Post's Miranda Devine is reporting today that a former official says that the FBI lost count of how many paid informants there were at the Capitol on January 6th. I mean, this is insanity. Then later performed an audit to figure out the exact number, Matt. Why were there paid informants at the Capitol on January 6th anyway?
Yeah, in John Durham's report, I think one of the things that was a little overlooked was the acknowledgement or the recognition that the FBI's confidential human source program is being run very poorly. They're spending $40 or more million a year on paid confidential sources. Some of them were at the Capitol on January 6th, and that is a great question. I don't know if we can answer that right now because, again, Chris Wray won't even acknowledge that they were there, at least in the last time he testified. So there has got to be accountability from the FBI, and there has to be an explanation of why they paid so many people. It sounds like it was more than a handful. It may have been as much as a dozen people that were paid confidential human sources at January 6th, at the Capitol when those riots broke out.
Well, that's outrageous, and I'd like to know what the J6 committee has to say about that they were attacking Trump and his supporters. People are still sitting in jail right now, and then we've got paid informants that were put there on purpose. I assume, Sarah, this is going to come up in the Merrick Garland testimony. Jump in here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's a lot of questions for Garland that go beyond the Hunter Biden investigation, this being one of them. But I do want to circle back to impeachment a little bit. I think there's been some frustration, Matt, with the pace of the congressional investigation. Why did it take 9 months for the committee to get around to actually subpoenaing Hunter Biden's bank records? And there's dozens of witnesses out there. You have former business partners like Rob Walker. You have Burisma executives like Mykola Zlochevsky, who claims to have tapes of Joe Biden being involved in these deals. Do you think there's a strategic reason that Congress has waited so long to sort of reach for what seems like the most obvious answers? And is it time for Congress to start calling some of these key witnesses?
Yeah, Sarah, that's a great question. And I think the answer is absolutely. If the question about the speed of the investigation really ultimately is up to James Comer, because he's been doing this investigation, I think, very methodically. And remember, he has not been getting full cooperation. There have been people that are ignoring his subpoenas, and this Department of Justice isn't going to hold people in contempt, unlike, they did for the previous Congress, with, for example, Steve Bannon. But all that being said, this is the time, I think, in the coming months in this impeachment inquiry that the evidence has to be presented to the American people.
Yeah, for sure. Matt, good to get your insights. Thank you.